Welcome, everybody, to Write Better Together. I'm Jon Meyers. Hey, look, everybody, it's Emily Brooks.
Hello, Jon Meyers. And hey, look, everybody, it's Stephanie L. Jones.
Oh, wow. What? Every week now. This is like 3 weeks in a row. Emily, do you do something? Where does she go?
Emily, maternity leave, and actually has a baby now. So
Yeah, yeah. So now it's not just Emily that you're disposing of. Now it's Arthur Lewis as well.
I still love that name. It's so cute. When she told me the first time, I'm like, oh, it seems like an author's name. Like, not that we're going to say that he's going to be an author, but doesn't Arthur Lewis just sound like an author?
Yes. I think an author named Arthur. Yes, I agree with you. Plus, I also think it sounds like a podcast producing editor name.
You're praying, aren't you, Jon Meyers?
that does all the editing. I think he's born with those skills. What are we talking about today, Stephanie L. Jones?
Yes, well, we have quite the list, Jon
Oh,
Meyers.
yay. I like that.
We have Nina Kaye on, and she is oh my gosh, fiction author, but also she's discussing writing despite of a chronic illness and living with chronic pain and a neurological disorder. So looking forward to that conversation. We will chat about how we got out of our bubble. And I had a full circle moment. I couldn't wait to get on here and talk about how we got out of our bubble because I had a full circle moment. You will have listener responses, and then we will have our chat with Nina. We get a call to action. We will do our Hey Jon Meyers, and we do What the Bee while I'm here. We will play a game, which I have a game. And
our first 3-hour episode. Can't wait. Let's go.
How did you get out of your bubble this week?
Do we count recording the first episode with Bob, the other co-host, Bob Sines, celebrity screenwriter with the beautiful green eyes? Oh,
Bob Were you out of your house? Were you out of your house?
No, I was not, but I was out of my.
I don't count that.
But I do because I was out of my comfort zone with having a male co-host. Oh. That's not. I'm used to good cop, bad cop. Oh my goodness, you're a police officer. And so I'm like the guy that rips the Band-Aid off, and then Emily comes and goes, oh, but we have to consider other people too, right? And softens the blow. You actually are a police officer.
I'm a former. I'm currently not sworn.
Former police officer. And so he wasn't nervous about it, and I wasn't nervous, but I was hesitant about the dynamic, and it went just fine.
I'm sure it did.
So there you go. So people get ready to watch that. That is not what I wanted to show you. I did get out of my bubble on my stupid walk, and I have a picture. This is the first sighting of one of these, or there's actually 3 of these since I've had you as my co-host. And I'll put the picture up better and bigger, but let's see if you can tell what these are, what I saw on my stupid walk. Oh, that's pretty good. Can you see what those are?
Are they bolts?
They're muffler men.
Okay.
Emily and I have talked about muffler men before. These are actually muffler men that are lifting weights, that are working out.
Oh, okay.
And there's a subcategory of folklore, and there's actually a book here on my shelf somewhere called Muffler Men, and it's in our bookshop, bookshop.org. The reason that muffler men, you have them driving around in your town too, is folklore is people are trained as mechanics to put mufflers on cars. That's what they're trained by. You're the new guy at work, a mentor teaches you, you're an apprentice, and then they have this skill set that they use not in their job. And so they take the same skills that they learn to put a muffler on your car and then create folk art with it. And so it's the same set of skills used in a different area, that's folklore. And so you'll see in front of muffler shops, you'll see muffler men, or there's one here in front of a muffler shop that's a family. It's a dad and a mom, a little kid and a dog. I have not personally seen one not in front of a muffler shop. So the one that I just showed you were muffler men working out in front of a workout place. The place that I showed you was an actual workout place.
How creative. You know what? I thought it was like bolts, is because haven't you seen where they make those little men and they're like bolts and nails and stuff? So I couldn't tell the size by looking on your phone, but those they're probably bigger, right?
Yeah, they're life size. You'll see on the episode. They're as big as the whole picture window of the workout place in front. Yeah, we love muffler men. Because it takes a skill that you get this skill for one purpose and you use it for a different purpose. Something creative.
That's what I was going to say is I love the creativity of it.
All right. How'd you get out of your bubble?
Two things. Yes. One is I did a workshop for nonprofit leaders called Breaking Up with Burnout for Nonprofit Leaders.
Oh.
And that went very well. So that was like, lots of prep and getting outside. And it's like a 3-hour workshop that I do. So that was good because I get to meet a lot of new people and engage in good connections and conversations. But at the end of the day, you're helping, which I think it ties nicely into what we're going to talk to Nina about, of taking care of ourselves. And if not, you end up running yourself in the ground. And are you doing things that you love to do? Or at least making time for that. So that was one way I got outside my bubble. The other, which I'm excited about, is I spent all day on Monday at Batesville Intermediate School with 5th graders. And in the morning, I was in the library with a lot of other like creatives, like podcasters and journalists and videographers. And the kids got to come in and check us out. So we were like a living library. So they could check me out. And then it was so cute. They had clipboards and pens and paper, and they had questions, and they had to interview us. And it was really about them like learning about different careers as a 5th grader, like start to what's your day look like? What are your challenges? What education do you have? So that was so fun. That was in the morning. Then in the afternoon, I had to teach 5th graders like something. We had 20 minutes per round, 6 classes. So I called mine like big idea, and they had to start with, everybody got a pen and paper, and they had to think of a big idea. By the end is they had a little outline for a story of who their target audience was, who their main character was. But so full circle moment was I said, one thing is a lot of times we as authors or writers is we have a lot of time to write stories, sometimes months, years, lots of times. They had a time constraint, but a time constraint, constraints don't have to be bad. And I was sharing with them we talked about Dr. Seuss and Green Eggs and Ham, of how he had a constraint that was put on him as a challenge of 50 words or less. And look what he did, best-selling book. And I'd ask all the kids, how many of you heard of Green Eggs and Ham? And every one of them raised their hand. And so it was kind of this cool way to take that constraint, that knowledge, and then tell them here's your constraint, and it's time right now. So, yeah.
When we talked about that, I didn't point out. So it's full circle. Again, it's an 8.
A double full circle?
It's a double full circle because Misty, who is our social media, we don't have TikTok intentionally, but she did. And so we didn't force someone to go on to TikTok. We just, we welcomed her into the fold and integrated her into the Write Better Together fold as our TikToker, but she does other social media too. One of her videos, was how do you take an obstacle and turn it into a positive? So it was the same thing, just under a different name.
Yeah. Just how are you thinking about it?
So yeah, double full circle.
That's how I got on my bubble this week.
And so what were you? Were you an author, a guest speaker, or a podcaster?
I did it as an author, like writer, author.
There you go.
Yeah.
You have so many hats you wear.
Jon Meyers, do you have listener responses for us?
Oh, I do. Speaking of Misty. Speaking of Misty L. Butler, I have two viewer responses from Stephanie L. Jones underneath the YouTube videos this week.
You're not allowed to count mine.
I won't share those. Misty is responding to, we've actually done, one of the times you were on as a guest, we talked about anthologies a bit. And then we had a whole episode with Amy McConnell about anthologies. And we actually referred to some of the things that you had said on your episode about, because you had other people in this book write for you, like Zach. Misty has some history with poetry anthologies, so she's responding to that. Here we go.
Hi everyone, it's Misty with Write Better Together, and I hope you got to see Jon Meyers and Emily Brooks' recent interview with Amy McConnell, who put together an anthology about life as a daughter. A lot of books have been written about being a mother, but these pieces are from a daughter's perspective. And it made me think, have any of you all ever been a part of an anthology before? So just for fun, I'm going to take you way back to my school days when I participated in a couple of anthologies. And to give you a perspective, it was 1992. I was in 8th grade, and here is 8th grade Misty.
Aww.
Notice the permed hair, and if you're a Gen X lady, you remember.
Stop doing the math. I know you're doing the math to try to figure out how old she is.
I'm a Gen Xer, so I could tell by her hair.
Don't pretend you don't remember. You remember the permed hair. And in 1992, I don't remember how it happened, but somehow I was asked to enter a poem into the Anthology of Poetry by Young Americans. So I'll share with you the 8th grade poem I wrote called Waiting for Morning. Silence is swept into the dead of the night. The stars glimmer faintly in the dusky twilight. The moon lights the night in the dark, gloomy sky, yet the sun will soon rise, for dawn is nigh. The sky's flaming colors will break up the night as the golden sun rises, blazing with light. Soon it is morning, the dark fades away. The moon brought the sun and a beautiful day. Misty Butler, age 14, so many, many moons ago. So fast forward a few more years, it was 1995, and I was a junior in high school. Here's our high school yearbook, and here is 11th grade junior Misty. The perm is still going strong. Those days were not over yet. So I was asked to be a part of another anthology, and this was by the National Library of Poetry. Some of y'all may have experiences similar to this, and the anthology was called Beyond the Stars. And I especially like this one. It's just a great, big, thick hardback book. And the poem I entered for that was called, let's see. Okay, so the poem I entered for that was called Life's Golden Treasures. And it says, listen to the wind, my child, rustling through the trees, and hear the music of the birds who sing sweet melodies. Look up at the moon, my child, hanging in the sky, like a great white spotlight o'er the land where shadows lie. Breathe in the mountain air, my child, the aroma of the sea, and smell the fragrance of morning flowers opening tenderly. Taste the berries from the vine, my child, the fruit that on the tree grows. Savor the goodness of each planted food in Granddad's garden rows. Feel the bitterness in the air, my child, as slowly winter creeps in, and touch the bare limbs of the trees where soft leaves once had been. Hold fast to the world, my child, life's treasures around you lie, but seek with the inner eye of your heart, or you may pass them by. And that was my poem as a junior in high school. So maybe you have some similar experiences. Maybe you've been a part of an anthology, even if it was when you were a kid or you were in school, or maybe you want to be a part of one someday. So please comment with any experiences you had, or if you hope to be in an anthology, what would you like it to be about? What would you like to contribute? And just to close this out and prove to you that I did get over the days of the perm, this is 1996, my senior year of high school, and The perm was gone by that time.
Looks the same.
So, you Gen X ladies, when did you stop perming your hair, or do you still do that? Just for fun, drop some of your your young pics of your old-fashioned styles and growing up. It's so fun to laugh and see how we've changed.
She's great, man. Let me stop sharing here before I ask you this deep probing question. The question I have for you is, did you go through the perm phase?
Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh. Yes.
Oh.
You know what's crazy is I went through the perm phase probably a little bit younger than what she went. A lot of her perm phase was in high school. My hair was naturally curly anyways. So it was like I had perms when I was, let's say, like probably junior high, 4th, 5th grade, something like that. I don't know. But then by the time I got to high school, I mean, I just had a lion's mane and it was naturally curly. There was no need for a perm for that craziness. So
that's so I did not have a perm, but I'm gonna ring the bell early, and while you tell them all the ring the bell stuff, I'm gonna go get something to show you. Hold on.
Gosh. Okay, so the bell means how can you help us out? A couple ways. 1, subscribe to the podcast. 2, leave us a star rating review or a word review. Take a minute and write a review, and it helps us, actually, other viewers find our podcast.
Perfect timing. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
Oh. Oh. Look at that man.
Oh my gosh, Jon Meyers.
Be nice.
Wait, is that a perm or is that naturally curly?
That's my hair, man. When I had hair. That's natural. I did not have a perm.
That looked good. I like that.
I don't know if you noticed. Apparently there was some rule where your hair couldn't touch your collar. Look. I had all that hair, but it didn't touch my collar. How crazy is that?
I loved it.
Yep.
I love it.
I was pretty handsome, I know. Misty has a new book coming out, by the way.
Okay, cool.
Delilah's Dilemma. It's part 2 of a series.
Okay. Next is, we have quite the guest today.
Oh.
Nina Kaye. She is a contemporary fiction author whose writing is inspired by her journey with functional neurological disorder, also known as FND. After a life-altering diagnosis in 2014, Nina began writing as a part of her rehabilitation, rediscovering her voice and purpose through storytelling. Her debut novel, Take a Moment, which I can't wait to read that, draws on her experience with chronic illness to raise awareness while delivering an uplifting, heartfelt read. She is also the creator of a charity song that supports those with invisible illnesses, using both her words and music to make a lasting impact. She has 6 books, and she has a 7th one coming out in June. So I'm so excited for this discussion with Nina Kaye.
And we're back. Hey, everybody. I'm still Jon Meyers. It's still Stephanie L. Jones. Who's this other person?
We have Nina Kaye.
Oh my goodness!
Just introduced Jon Meyers.
What can I tell you? Nina, tell people where you're at. I from your elaborate backdrop, I would say you're in Scotland. Am I right?
Yes, it's beautiful behind me, isn't it? I've got absolutely nothing on the wall. I moved in here 4 years ago and I've still got nothing on the wall.
I'm the same way.
I am in Edinburgh in Scotland. Yeah, you might be able to tell by the accent.
My favorite city. I love it. Today, what's she going to talk about with us today, Stephanie L. Jones?
Writing despite chronic pain or, neurological disorder. I'm interested to learn and hear about your journey. And I think it'll be something that a lot of the audience can relate to, whether or not you have chronic pain. We all have struggles and challenges in our life that can prohibit us from writing. And so I'm just interested to hear about your journey.
And I saw, are you in pain right now?
Well, there's always something going on in my body, whether it's pain or something else.
So is it painful for you to sit right now?
Not yet, but it does get that way after a while. Yeah, I get very stiff and sore.
Well, can you tell us just a little bit about, let's start there, since we are, talking about your chronic pain and your neurological disorder, just tell us a little bit about your story.
basically from my early teens, I had some issues. I'll go through this part really fast. I'm not going to give you my full 30 years or whatever, but I had a lot of problems when I was in my teens. I started getting some strange sensations in my body, pain, problems with all sorts of areas. And kind of through my teens, 20s, I'm seeing doctors, and I'm kind of thinking, how can I have this many things wrong with me? Surely that can't be a thing. I felt like a hypochondriac, and not really getting any answers and things like that. So I spent a long time just not in great health, but just carrying on, because the longer you go without answers, the more you think, well, I just need to get on with life. I'm not dying, it seems, because I would have gone by now. So I just need to carry on as best I can. And I did, and I lived the fullest life I possibly could, which was reasonably full, actually. And then in my early 30s, just things started to ramp up a bit. I was getting, so I've got chronic sinus problems. I get recurring bacterial infections, and it started that every time I got a bacterial infection, I would start to have additional symptoms, like I was getting dizzy, shaky, my vision was starting to go, I would start to lose my balance, and then I would fall down and things, and it would just come on really fast. And then I would have to go to bed. I would spend about 2 weeks recovering, get back on my feet. Still not quite right, but I'd go through things, and then a few months later it would all happen again. And it was just before Christmas in 2014, I think it was. I had one of these situations where I'd been out with a friend the night before. I woke up feeling very odd. Couldn't feel my left hand. It was left or right hand side. I can't even remember what it was now. And I tried to get out of bed and I couldn't get up. And I basically just ended up getting up and forcing myself. And then I just broke into these massive convulsions, fell on the floor, thought, something wrong here. I really need some help. It was basically like a seizure-like attack. And phoned my brother came round, carted off into hospital. Fast forward a bit, a couple of times back and forth to hospital, this happening, this stopping again. And then in the summer of, that was 2013, December 2013, summer of 2014, things just got even worse. And over a number of weeks, I started to have a constant tremor, muscle spasms. I've actually written some of these down because I know that I won't be able to bring them to my mind when I want to, but it was like these attacks. So basically I was having several of these a day where I was losing control of my body. And if you were to imagine someone who's possessed, who is flapping around like a goldfish on the floor, wailing in agony, that was me, because it was just horrific. And when some people have these attacks, they lose consciousness or they are not fully conscious. I'm completely conscious and I'm crying out to get someone to help me. Over that time, I lost the ability to walk properly. I had this really weird kind of dragging myself along kind of walk. I started to stammer and stutter, and I couldn't talk properly. Concentration, memory, thinking, word finding, all of it just went. Falling down a lot. So I would be walking along the street. Actually, I'd be trying to walk along the street with my husband's help. And if a really big lorry went past me and it kind of vibrates the street, I would go down, flat on my face. And every time I would, something like that, or a very loud noise or something. And yeah, but my vision and hearing were affected as well. So it was literally almost every part of my body just broke. And I was in dire straits. Eventually got to see a neurologist, and they diagnosed me with something called functional neurological disorder. Sorry, am I going into too much detail? Because I feel like it's going to take a while.
No, I'm sitting over here trying not to cry. I'm just like, wow, I feel like you're like a living miracle just sitting here in front of us.
It was awful. I mean, I'm not going to lie about it. I'm not going to pretend I'm one of these amazing people who just got through it with ultimate strength. It was awful. My life was completely shattered. And then, so I ended up getting some physiotherapy, neurophysiotherapy, they call it. They helped me get my walk back. But I mean, I was severely fatigued, chronic pain, difficulty breathing after just maybe 5-6 steps, all that kind of stuff at that time. They helped me. They said my eyes were out of alignment, so they helped me get my eyes back in alignment, which actually helped my vision. It helped my hearing as well. It was all very strange. So it took about kind of 6 months to really hard work on my part to get myself back to the stage where I could go back to work. But to be honest, it was a bit of a force to go back to work because they were starting to put me through formal capability, sickness absence stuff, and I was terrified I was going to get fired. So I did go back, and I don't think I should have, and then they made me redundant. So you know, but anyway, it was fine because I was able to walk away and try and focus a bit more on my health. Now, during that time where I was going through all of that stuff, I had like physical support, and they did a bit of neuropsychotherapy with me, but it didn't really change anything. And what I felt was missing was I didn't have anything for like my brain, to get my brain going again. Like physically, I was managing to start walking again and things like that. But it's like, how do I get to the stage where I could sit in front of a computer and I could go back to my job or anything? Like it just wasn't there in terms of treatment. And then I went for a coffee with my boss, my ex-boss one day. We're sitting down and she says to me, now that you've got some time off, are you writing that book you've always wanted to write? And I just went, what? Like, have you seen the state of me? You saw that. You'd hardly work. What, coming over here? But she was one of these amazing people who sees the possibility in everything. She's a coach, an executive coach. She really kind of helps people kind of grow and stuff like that. And as much as in that moment, I felt like, whoa, I don't know what to do with that. I went home that night and I thought to myself, actually, maybe she's got something in that, or maybe there is something in that because I don't have anything to help my brain. So I basically just started trying to sit at a desk for like 10 minutes and write some words. And then, I just took it from there. It was gruelingly painful. It was really tough work. I couldn't get my brain going at all at first, but I kept at it and I kept at it. And over, those months where I was physically rehabilitating, I actually then managed to start typing, coming up with some stuff, sit at a desk for a bit longer and, all of that. And then by the time I actually went back to work, I think I'd written about 2/3 of the book. Just because I'd been relentless, because I thought, this is helping me, I need to keep going. And I'm like a dog with a bone. If I get onto something, I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to give it up if it's going to help me. So then I had the time where they'd made me redundant. I got to kind of finish the book, go back through it. And then I thought, well, what now? Why not try and find an agent? Because I'd heard about these not mythical creatures, these interesting creatures called literary agents, yeah. And I just thought, well, why not? What have I got to lose? So I wrote out to about 16 of them, probably got 15 rejections. I ended up self-publishing the book to start with. And then when they sorry, I'm losing my train of thought again. I just basically kind of put it out there myself, and then about a month in, I get an email from an agent offering to represent me, and it was just amazing. So I then had this representation. My book went out on submission. Unfortunately, it wasn't taken because I think they were wanting to kind of position me as romance, but it wasn't romance, and I was green behind the ears. I didn't really know about genres and things like that. I just wrote the book I wanted to write, and so yeah, so it didn't go anywhere. But then my agent was like, okay, write another book. Let's just see what we can do because you're good at writing. Wrote another one, that one got taken. And now I have got 6 books published and I've got another one coming out in July. Sorry, that was very long.
That was great. So tell me if I'm wrong on this. Here's what I saw happening with you. So not the friend that I told you. So Nina, I told you about a friend, not her, but a different friend who I just told Stephanie about has come out of the woodwork that she's been having some of these issues that I've known for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And she doesn't tell anybody, but you actually were telling a boss, your husband knew. I mean, I guess when you're falling on the ground, it's kind of hard not to tell people, but did the people at work know? And like, did everyone around you were very open about it?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I didn't really feel, well, I'm probably one of these oversharers anyway. One of these people who kind of comes out of something and goes, oh gosh, I wish I hadn't said that. Sounds like you're relating to that, Stephanie. Potentially, yeah. So part of that is just me, who I am. I'm just a bit too open probably at times. But I think also when my symptoms are really invisible. So you look at me and you would go, looks fine. Like people always go, oh, you look great. And I'm like, don't feel great. And And it goes from being completely invisible to being so visible that you are a spectacle in front of everybody and you're being stared at. And I have dropped on getting off a plane, and it stopped the whole plane disembarking. I've done it in like the middle of public places, in my workplace. I couldn't hide it because these things happen to me in my workplace. And then the last thing I need is everybody panicking and wanting to phone an ambulance. So it's better that people know, so that they understand that if this happens, it's not life threatening. I will come out of it.
I just wanted to ask you, do you think if you wouldn't have had this physical, what do you call yours? Like a physical challenge, the neuro, like how do you address it?
Bane of my life?
What?
The bane of my life?
Yeah, okay. So if you didn't have the bane of your life happen, do you think you would have written? Because it was kind of like, because of that is, you have this time off, you're sitting with your ex-boss who knows, which is kind of cool from her perspective that she even knows that. A lot of times leaders or managers don't really know people's personal lives or maybe a goal or aspiration. Yeah. So have you ever thought of like, if this bad thing didn't happen, this good thing may have never come out of me?
Totally. I see it as the ultimate silver lining to the experience. There are two things. I'm almost of the view that, well, maybe I got too lucky in life with my husband, that, they had to kind of balance it off by giving me something rubbish, which is my illness. But actually, I don't know why I'm talking about that, but basically I'm kind of seeing it as, one thing to the other. And, the fact that I became so ill, I'm not sure I ever would have had the time to write a book. And I feel like, yeah, maybe my life would be very different right now. I would have been pursuing my corporate career. And, as much as maybe that wasn't the thing that lit me on fire, it would have been something. I'm quite an ambitious person. So, I would have naturally just followed that up. And yeah, in that type of job, you don't have time to do something like writing. So it's the gift I've been given for all this rubbish.
And you've accomplished a lot in 10, it sounds like 10 years from that story you just told. The course of 10 years.
Yeah. Just over
That's
that.
amazing.
Now. Do you, Nina, on following up of what you just said, is like you're in this corporate career. I came out of corporate for 15 years. And so I can understand that is when you're in that environment, you're just so focused, so many hours.
Yeah.
Is if, let's say there's a lady or man, whoever, listening right now, and they're in that corporate space and they have a passion that they just like, it's there, whether it's a book or it's something else. What would your advice be to that person of like, you would have pursued it without this, the bane of your existence happening? What if that doesn't have to happen for somebody? Like, what advice, now that you've kind of lived on the other side and been like, oh yeah, I'm surviving without my corporate job?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I am actually still in the corporate job, but part-time. Unfortunately, I'm not.
Part-time. Well, that's
I'm not earning well enough as an author to quit that.
No, that's good. I appreciate that.
but yeah, it's I guess it's almost like, why didn't I? And actually, I've got a thing where now it's really, the whole thing has changed my outlook, and maybe not so much about the writing, but having an illness like this makes you think differently. When you have people talk about that something big happens in their life, it makes them reevaluate things. And now I'm kind of the no regrets kind of view. I think, well, do I want to wake up when I'm 80, if I make it that long, to think, I wish I'd done that. What would I regret? And these are the kind of things now that I'm doing things like, I'm about to release my first children's book, and I recorded a song that I wrote whilst I was recovering, and it's just things, and it's not going to go anywhere, but I did it and I enjoyed it, and it's just almost like no regrets. Like, put yourself forward that far and think, what do I want to be thinking about on my deathbed? It's not, I wish I'd spent more time sitting behind a computer doing my corporate job. Sorry to my corporate job, but it's true.
I cannot bite my tongue when a guest says it's not going to go anywhere. That is.
I knew you were going to say something, Jon Meyers.
I just can't.
Going to say something. I love it.
But I want to talk about this for a second, because you are refreshingly positive despite all you've been through, and it's very inspiring. And I was just getting ready to remark, when Emily and I do appearances, we were at the Southern Festival of Books. I think I told you about that. And we talked to over 300 people. So many of those people, they would downplay their writing skills. Well, I have an MFA in writing, but I'm not as good as my professor said I was. And they were, but you're not saying anything like that until you got to the song. Everything you said was, I'm going to do it anyway. That's the whole thing of our book, is that just no matter what this obstacle is, write anyway. And you embody that. It doesn't seem like you're prideful. It doesn't seem like you have this shame, like with so many other people that we've talked about. And so what's the difference? So why did that sentence come out when you got to the song? Because nothing like that came out when you talked about your books.
There's that window into my self-doubt. I'm obviously coming across as more confident than I am. Because, I don't know, like, if enough people tell you you write well, then I suppose you have to believe it a bit. But then if you see a 1-star review on Amazon, it can just, like, oh, I'm terrible and I shouldn't be doing this. So, no, I mean, I think that's the thing, like, I'm just going to try anyway. And I live with so many of these symptoms still. And one of the best things I can do, and this won't apply to everybody with chronic illness, I'm sure, but one of the best things I can do is distract myself. So, if I sit in a meeting, right, and I don't engage, there's nothing going on, I'm going to be struggling to keep control of my body within about 30 to 40 minutes. I can't stand for any length of time. I start to get really shaky. I have to change up. So I have to sit, then I stand, then I lie down, then I stand, then I sit, and that's just how I have to live my life. And I suppose I'm just doing my best to keep going in life by distracting myself, because if I stop, I will feel horrendous. And I don't want to feel horrendous. I know how it feels to be able to do nothing, because there was a period where all I could do was feel what was going on in my body, and I don't want to be there again. And what I do know is movement. I can't do much of it, and then I flare up if I do too much of it. But if I do too little, I harm myself because I go backwards. And it's the same with kind of just day to day. Even if I feel rubbish, I'm just going to still try and do some stuff, because distraction is the best thing I can do.
I love that you've learned to self-regulate. That, like, because I can go up to you're like the bus that has to go in that movie Speed, that has to go at 50 miles per hour, and it can't go over and can't go less, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
That's you. Talk about how tiring that is. I imagine it's tiring.
It is really tiring, because I'm like the ultimate contradiction. I have fatigue and pain. I've all the things that slow you down, but I've also got what's known as like my central nervous, which is one of the symptoms. My central nervous system is on red alert all the time, which has me up here. So you might see me as a bit hyper on this call, on this podcast, and it's basically because I've got this kind of fast forward in my body. It's exhausting because I have so little energy and so little in my tank stamina wise, but my system is like this all the time. It's go, 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 go. And it's just really, really hard to kind of keep on top of. And I have to be really mindful to not allow myself to run away, because I will set myself back for weeks if I do that. So yeah, I think I've just learned I've got to always be managing myself.
Is that exhausting? Like the balancing of like managing, but it also can be, like I think a lot of people never learn that skill. They just keep running until they totally like burn out, crash and burn. And maybe they, learn a little bit from that crash and burn, and then they heal, and then they bounce back, and then they crash and burn. Like they never learn how to go, oh yeah, I have to take care of myself. I have to slow down, or I have to do something like that. I think that a lot of people struggle with that. Of how long did it take you to learn to understand how you've got to balance and what kind of your limit is? And then you're like, okay, I'm at my limit. I got to come back down so then I can go write again or do whatever you want to do.
I'm still learning, to be honest. Yeah. So at first I went through the total boom bust cycle, like constantly. My ambition was way ahead of what my body could cope with. And I would just go through cycle after cycle of thinking, oh, I'm doing a bit better now, run at it, right back on my bum. And just over and over and over. I've now physically kind of got to a point. So I find swimming is brilliant for me because I can't do high impact exercise of any, like I can only really just go for walks. I can do a little bit of very light cycling as long as it's mainly on flat. But with swimming, because the water is so therapeutic, the cold water is so therapeutic for my pain, and I don't feel the pain as bad. I mean, really feel it, and I am dragging myself up and down that pool every time I go, but I don't feel it in the way that I would feel it because I've got a pain sensitivity as well as chronic pain. So being in water helps, and I do think that it's all been key for me is to sorry, I'm kind of losing my train of thought again. So sorry to everyone. I do this. I do lose my train of thought a lot, and it's just part of it. But basically, I just I keep myself going, and I balance it just as well as I can. But I get it wrong at times too.
Yeah.
So you have a part-time day job. You're an author. You have water therapy. Do you get to go have fun with friends and your husband and stuff, or is there none of that? Are you always
Yeah.
producing?
So that's an interesting one because my day job has changed slightly over the last 2 years, and has made things more flexible for me, and I've had less pressure, and I'm going back to that more pressured environment in August. After a day's work, I can't do anything. That's it. There's no writing. There's nothing. I've just got to basically lie and rest and watch some telly or something. And I'm going to go back just 2.5 days, and I can still write around that because with writing, I do it when I want and when I feel like it and when I feel able to do it on my other days. And some weeks I'll manage quite a lot, and some weeks I won't manage much at all. But as long as I can manage my own deadlines and things, it's fine. So yeah, it's. Sorry, I've forgotten what your question was.
Do you get to do social activities? Do you have social
Yeah,
time
sorry,
during
that's
your
what I was
downtime?
saying. Yeah, so over this 2 year period, I've managed to do a bit more, and it's been really nice. And I'm a wee bit dreading going back to my other job, in the sense that I don't want to lose that. But it's very limited, really, what I do. My life is small. My life is small. My husband makes it bigger, thankfully. If I was on my own, it would be extremely small because, like, of confidence issues of being I can't travel on my own and stuff because I run into problems a lot. And he just helps me and he sorts me out, and he's brilliant. Yeah, like I do get to have catch ups, but they're quite limited and they have to be somewhere I can reach easily at a time of day that I can manage. I can't do evenings, I can't do nights out, anything like that. So yeah, it's I've got something of a social life, but it's not very much.
So I've done the train ride from London to Edinburgh, and so you just did that when you met up with our mutual friend Fiona. And
My husband drove us down.
oh, you drove.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know.
so that was a long drive.
Yeah, it was, and it was a very painful drive. And I was popping painkillers whilst we were driving because I can go for a while, and I have my seat reclined quite a lot because the more I can be in a more of a lying down position, the easier it is. If I'm sitting, it gets very sore very quickly. So I'm not like lying down in the car, but I am just a wee bit reclined with plenty of leg room and stuff. But yeah, I struggle. I always struggle for the last couple of hours. On a journey like that. With flying, like I can only sit in an airline seat for about 2.5 hours before I'm in agony, and then I'm starting to get shaky and all that kind of stuff. So like for long haul, unfortunately, the only way I can do it is business class with an actual proper bed where I can lie out. So that doesn't happen very often. I've only done it a couple of times in my whole life, and one of them was my honeymoon. Because we got a nice gift pot from our guests to help us have that trip.
And with your husband driving, if you needed to stop, you could. That
Oh
was
yeah,
where I was
yeah,
going. Like, you can't
yeah.
stop the train when you're on the
No,
train all
no,
day.
you can't. And no, trains they're not really great for me for longer journeys. So we would tend to fly or drive if.
I want to ask you, you had said something about, you can kind of write on your own timeline. And so how does that work as a traditionally published author? Do they give you deadlines, or do they work with you? Or tell us a little bit about that process.
Yeah. So I mean, when I say like I write to my own deadlines, in a way, maybe deadline was the wrong word. If I've got a deadline with a publisher, I just make sure it's long enough that I know that I'm confident I'd be able to meet it. And actually, if there were any hiccups with my health, unless it was a huge one, in which case I'd have to renegotiate with them, it gives me enough that I'm not under huge amounts of pressure. And I suppose what I mean is like day to day. So I could say, well, this morning, I woke up because sometimes I just can't sleep. And then I wake up at 5 a.m. and from 5 till 9 or 10 in the morning, I'm actually functioning okay. And then I start to get shaky and go downhill. So I'll maybe do it at that time in the morning, and then stop. And then on another day, I might wake up, unable to walk or whatever's going on that day, or in real pain and whatever. And it can get better during the day, and then I manage something later on in the day. So it's just more about just flexing in a way that you can't do a day job. It's like 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 or 9 to 8 or whatever people do. You can't have that same flexibility of I'll just write when I feel able to write or whatever.
And what I like to hear you say too, and I think it's important, is like, you set reasonable expectations. Reasonable. It's not like if a publisher came to you and said, hey, you need to have this done in 2 months. You're not like, I think a lot of times if we're people pleasers, we're like, okay, I'll do that. We just commit it to it. And then it's either we miss those deadlines or we make ourselves sick or whatever, because then you're trying to do something that really isn't reasonable.
Yeah. I mean, for me, a deadline like that would be a flat out no. My health comes first. And I have never missed a deadline with a publisher. And I had a brilliant editor, like the ones I've worked with most recently, really understanding and really supportive. If you need more time, you get more time. And that's it. They weren't unreasonable.
How have your neurological issues impacted your fiction? Does it compare 10 years ago to the last one or the new one, your characters and all that?
So I don't write just about people with chronic illness. I to be honest, I'm not sure I would get publishing deals if I did, and that's a sad thing to say, but I think it's still regarded as a wee bit niche disability fiction, and therefore, I want to write so that I will get contracts as well. Sad to say, but it's true. This one is the one that I wrote. This was my second book to be published, Take a Moment, and you can see there's a wee multicoloured or fluorescent wheelchair on the corner there, and that's a person who has a shock diagnosis of multiple sclerosis, which is different to my condition, but there are overlaps in symptoms. So this was almost like my, it's like I wasn't going to write about my own condition because at the time it was a bit too close to home for me, but I wanted to kind of write this story, an uplifting story of, there is life still with chronic illness. For some people it's so difficult and so severe, which I had thankfully for only a shorter period, that they don't actually, have a life. And that's really, really sad. But there are also people who want to be seen as, I'm a person, I'm not just a chronic illness. And the amount of people that wrote to me, actually the amount is like, it was thousands, it wasn't, right? But it felt good at the time because there were quite a few people that wrote to me through my website and said, thank you so much for writing this book, because I could relate. I saw myself on the page. And also it was like a character who good stuff happened to, not just a character with chronic illness who, they were the character that everything went wrong for or stuff like that. So, there was that one. With this one, hang on, just like that. This is one where the main character, her brother has a stroke, very young. He's going through that rehabilitation process and she's supporting him, and she takes kind of on a job for caring for him because the parents are kind of absent. She then has to kind of reduce her hours at work, and she essentially gets demoted at work and treated quite badly because she's taken on this role and she's trying to fight to get her career back. So that it's got that in it. And there's one I've just been writing just now recently where the mother of the character has a heart condition that is, is quite, her life is in danger if she doesn't slow down. And, you know, so either maybe having a secondary character, a main character, but I think just trying to have diversity where I can in my books to show that. I think in the UK, certainly about 1 in 4 has a chronic condition, at least one. So, you know, you're talking huge numbers of people now, and it's still just kind of swept under the carpet and ignored, when actually it's a huge part of life nowadays, people being ill.
I would say it's higher in the US.
Is it?
I would think so.
1 in 5 here. 1 in 5, or 1 in 5 to 1 in 4 we're at.
Are there more in the most recent book compared to in the first book, or how did that happen? The world.
No, I think so. My second book was the one, because I think that was the bit of like, I want to write a story with this because it was so fresh for me at the time. You know, if it had such meaning for me, and it's not lost meaning. But actually, sorry, I've totally misrepresented the thing I've been writing most recently, because I'm actually writing a series now of with one key character in it who is a main character in one of the books with a chronic illness, and she features in all 3 of the other books. And I kind of wanted to kind of have that so that it is present in every book, if you know what I mean.
So here's a story. Speaking of holding up books, look at this here. Oh, so I held this book in my hand a year ago, and in Barnes and Noble. I had 2 books, and I only had enough money to buy one, and I did not buy it. I did not buy your book. But so then, but when I booked you on this show, I didn't realize it was that book. So when I went, I'm like, Stephanie makes me read a book every week now for What to Be. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to read one of Nina's books. And so then I'm like, that's the book I had in my hand. So I bought that on, I can't find my Kindle, so it's on my laptop, and I'm on chapter 2. So no spoilers. and it's getting a little bit steamy already. Like page 7, it's already, we're noticing how hot the guy is. And oh my goodness. But so even though I didn't buy it, you should know, out of all of the books in Barnes & Noble, you were in the top 2, because I had that one, and then I had Stephen Wright's new book was in my hand at the time. And so Stephen Wright got my $20, but you got my money yesterday. And
I didn't even know my books were like in actual bookshops in America. Was it in America? No,
in Barnes & Noble, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, and
I thought I hadn't made it out of the UK, so that's exciting.
Oh no, I just pulled up. I looked up because, you know, like I have a library app, and they have to buy the books so you can check them out. And so I looked up "Take a Moment," and it came up. I'm like, okay, yeah. And then I was like, I'm gonna look up the rest of your books. So yeah, they're getting out here in the U.S. And I think you have a market, because I looked up the U.S. So approximately 60% of U.S. adults have at least one chronic illness.
Wow, that's huge.
40% live with at least 2.
Gosh,
so
that's really huge.
You know, if you look at over here, of your writing can impact a lot of people. People like to see themselves in the pages. I wanted to look that up because I thought it was probably going to be higher in the U.S. than it was in the UK.
Nina, Stephanie is a former police officer. And so if you say anything, like she will... You didn't Google that? I don't know. It's only been on a handful of episodes. Every episode. You never Googled it? No, I didn't. I did not investigate it any further. I went on with my life.
I've got an investigative mind, Nina. Curious minds want to know. I am one of them, and it won't leave me. I'm like, I got to go figure that out. So.
I think that's awesome. Like I got all excited there because when I was young, I wanted to be a police officer, but then I knew that my health wasn't good enough for that type of role. I'm obsessed with crime dramas. So yeah, like
maybe your next book, Nina.
I don't think I could. I probably watched enough of them to come up with something, but I don't know. I think maybe I'll just stick where I am just now.
Going back to something that you said, and I wanted to like come back to it, is you were talking about like movement in your writing as a distraction, and it is in the context of something positive. Mm-hmm. You know, nowadays is a distraction is typically something negative. Mm-hmm. Our phones are a distraction. You know, mm-hmm. We're so distracted from with technology and all this information and everything coming at us, that we don't get to focus on really the things that maybe we're called to do. I hadn't really thought of a distraction as a positive thing, and for you it has been. So I don't know. I don't know if there's a comment that you have on that, but that's something that resonated with me, because I always look as like distraction is bad.
Yeah, I think I've never really thought about it in that way, but you know, it's just one of these things that they actually encourage with my condition. In specifically in relation to if you feel like one of your seizure-like attacks is going to come on, to try and distract yourself from the symptoms to get through that period without it happening. And to be honest, for me, it doesn't really work. But I suppose it was introduced to me, distraction, as a coping mechanism to begin with. And I guess I've just taken it from there and kind of bloomed it out to apply to basically my whole life.
We actually we just didn't call it distraction, but we've talked about that before, where you want to break the pattern. You want to do something like when we talk about Sarah Jackson and her therapy. You're in this thing, you have to do something outside of that thing to break the pattern, even if it's one little thing to get started.
Yeah, no, I think so. Like there are plenty of things I've done where I've had to force myself. This hasn't come easily to me. This has been a case of, you do this. If you want to have a life, you do this. If you want to be... So one thing that really stuck with me when I went to the neurologist and he diagnosed me with, I don't even know if I've said what it is, functional neurological disorder. He said to me, if you allow yourself to become an invalid, you will become an invalid. And those words stuck with me like so hard and fast. I was like, I'm going to fight this with absolutely everything I've got. And what I did know was, thankfully, I've not got a degenerative condition, but I've got a condition that, you know, people can recover from generally to some extent. But I think realistically, most people are never without symptoms after, you know, I think maybe some are lucky, but there's a lot of people who are never without symptoms after they just have them at a manageable level. And because I had that little glimmer of hope, I was like, right, I'm going to come at this with everything I've got. And unfortunately, I've only managed to make it partially the way back, but I'm in a better place than I was. And if I hadn't forced myself to just do it and feel the pain and do it anyway and all that kind of stuff, you know, with swimming, it's like sometimes I'm like, I can't be bothered. No, I'm going to go because I know what happens if I don't go. You know, so maybe there's a bit of fear in there. It's almost like, well, you know, you actually can't afford to drop the ball here, because if you drop the ball, you go downhill, and it's a harder road back than it is to slip backwards, you know, to come back up that hill. So yeah,
I love people that force themselves to do it anyway. That I relate to that. I'm one of those people. But there's also, we have to include everyone. There are people that are like, it's okay to take a break, right?
Yeah.
There are days where you just can't force yourself. But
I can just add, because what I don't want is to set like this kind of sense of, well, Nina Kaye was saying that she can get through anything, I can't. And there are days, not many, but there are days where I just say, do you know what, today is nothing other than I lie on the couch because I literally cannot cope with anything else, and that's okay. I give myself permission to do that.
I have a friend who writes like I write standing up. You would hate that. But I have a friend who writes lying down because she has chronic pain, and there's actually a chapter in our book about writing lying down. So my final question before you give us a call to action, I don't know if Stephanie has another final question, but mine is, when I first asked you to be on, talk about breaking the pattern, you've only released fiction, and you said there's this nonfiction book, but you don't know if, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if I have it in me right now to do this nonfiction book. And so is that you don't have the energy, the physical energy?
Well, no, it's written. I've written it.
Oh,
yeah. What I was saying to you is that I'm trying to find an agent to represent me, because my agent only does fiction, not non-fiction. And the barrier I'm up against is what it appears to be, because I keep being told by people, is that with non-fiction, unless you are a celebrity, well-known celebrity, or someone on social media with a huge following, you're not going to be able to get a non-fiction deal. And I find that hugely frustrating, because for someone who is battling chronic illness, they can't pay the bills, have a job to pay the bills, write on the side, and then also grow this massive, following on social media and be an influencer and all that kind of stuff. Like, who would be able to do that, really? I mean, there are a couple of people out there who have chronic illness and they've built a platform for themselves, but without this big following, apparently I'm going to find it very tough. But as you've said, I just do things anyway, so I will self-publish, and I'll get it out there that way if I can't find anyone that will support it.
So yeah, I misunderstood that. So when you said I
That's
didn't
okay.
have it in me, you meant you didn't have the marketing part in you.
Yeah,
And
sorry. Yes, that's
it's already
exactly it. That's
it's already
exactly it.
done.
That's the hard part.
What do you think about that, Stephanie? Do you think that's true? I mean, it obviously helps if you have 1 million followers on Instagram, but we know exceptions to that.
I mean, I think there's exceptions to everything, but you are right, Nina, is when it comes to nonfiction, is especially in the traditional space, especially a bigger traditional, is you're still expected to market your book. And that's what I've heard from friends who are traditionally marketed, for friends who work in traditional marketing, is at the end of the day is they're going to pay you, and maybe a bigger traditional published, which you're right, if you're not someone well known or a big story or whatever, you're not going to get that high. So then if you're in this medium to smaller traditional publishes, they're not going to have a big marketing budget, so you're the marketer. So they've got to get their money back somehow, and if it isn't through your social media, then what other path is it for you to be able to sell your book? And so I think it's telling that story. And it's like, oh, I don't have this big social media following, but I have this over here. For me, I do quite a bit of speaking, or I would get corporate relationships where they're buying, hundreds of books at a time, so you have kind of something to offset. And so that's something maybe to think about. Or, I mean, I'm a big fan of self-published. I've self-published all 9 of my books, and, you can get them out there quicker. You can control your narrative,
absolutely.
and then you make, your profit margins are much higher. And then if you can sell direct, obviously we sell through a lot of distribution, but if you sell direct, then you're building relationships with your readers, you know who they are, and communicate. So anyways, I mean, I can go both ways, I guess, John.
Yeah.
Emily and I are the same way. I don't think that, I'll just speak for me. It never crossed my mind, because I speak at conferences too, like Stephanie does. It doesn't cross my mind that I wouldn't have an audience, because 300 people come here and 200 people come there, right? And then, but you, with your pain, that would be hard for you to hit the road for a 3-day conference and speak at 5 sessions in 3 days. But you could speak at one at a corporate, and then corporate buys 100 books or whatever. You could do that.
Yeah, there is that. The thing that holds me back from kind of trying to do things like that is I am unreliable. I don't know when I'm going to wake up on a day and not be able to leave my house. And actually, if you add the pressure of having something big happening the next day, you know how you're like, Sunday night, I'm going back to work the next day. You don't get a good sleep on a Sunday night because you're going back to work. So I've got a nervous system that is already up here. So if I know I've got something else going on, boom, it's overflowed. I'll be up all night, and then I'll wake up really shaky the next day. And it's like, I'm not thinking about it, but it's just the way our bodies work. Like that anticipatory kind of thing for me is, it can cause me a lot of problems, to be honest. So yeah.
And everyone's different. Just because it's right for one person, it's not right for another person.
Exactly. I mean, I'll find my way. And, as you were saying to me earlier, John, you don't have to reach loads and loads of people, but if you can make a difference for a few, then, if I can reach them in my own way, then, if 10 people read my book and 10 people get something helpful from it, then it's still been worthwhile.
Emily and I talk about it all the time. Well, what if we do this event and only 10 people come to it? Well, those were the 10 people that were meant to be there. And that hasn't happened yet, but I'm sure it will someday. But those are the 10 people that were meant to have your book in their hand. And that's better than 100 people showing up that don't care about your book.
Exactly. Yes. So, good point.
Call to action. to our viewers?
Okay, so I think it's basically that thing that you've been thinking about that you really want to do, but you've been finding all the reasons not to do it.
Oh.
Let's revisit that. Go back
Yeah.
to it, take another look and test yourself. Like I've had to at times go, just sit down in front of the computer and write 200 words. Sometimes when I don't want to, I'm like, because if I've got to write 3,000 words in a day, I'm like, it's like daunting if I'm not feeling well and stuff. But if I say to myself, just sit in front of the computer, switch it on, write 200 words. By the time I've written 200 words, I don't even remember that I was doing that. And then before I know it, I've written 1,500 words. And it's that kind of fear that holds us back. And maybe that was what held me back from writing before, not just time, but that thing of, can I do this? Am I good enough or whatever? And it turns out I can do a lot more than I thought, in this body. So yeah, just do it.
I love that. How do they get that? They're going to do that. Then they're going to respond. They're going to tell Stephanie and myself how well it went, because it's going to go fantastically. How do they get it to us, Stephanie?
Yeah, so call to action. We want to hear what you did, and you can either put it in the show notes, you can put it in the comments from our YouTube video, or on Facebook, which our Facebook page is Facebook.com/Write Better Together Now.
And on our website, there is a tab just for call to actions, and it had not been getting updated properly, thanks to me. I spent a couple moments, so I've probably got 6 or 7 more weeks up there. Yeah, we're in week 60, and it kind of stopped at week 22. So it's going to take me a while to get caught back up, but it'll be caught back up eventually. I forced myself, in honor of Nina, I forced myself to work on the webpage last night. Thank you, Nina. This was great.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been fabulous. Really nice to see you.
Fabulous. I can't wait to connect with you offline also. I'm going to be following up with you.
Thank you. Great.
And we're back. Oh my goodness. First of all, I have to say, I love Mondays. What was she saying about the Sunday Monday thing?
Oh, yeah. Well, based on the conversation, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to research it. But I think like most people have their heart attacks on
my goodness,
Sunday night or Monday, because they dread going to work.
Really?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
I think
I like Monday. Monday's my favorite day.
Well, now that I'm not in corporate America and I work for myself, Monday is another good day of the week. It's like,
because it's his mercies are new every morning. You start out the whole week, really the week starts on Sunday, but you start out the whole week and you've got your list of everything that has to get done. Back when I was teaching, it was my favorite day. I was in corporate world too. We haven't ever talked about that. Back in my corporate life, I was always a boss with managers under me, and you set them out on the right path for the week. Mondays I always looked forward to Mondays. I was ready, raring to go.
Yeah, I had a couple of tips and tricks that I incorporated when I was in corporate world that helped with Monday, which was blocking Monday morning and not taking any meetings. Using that time for planning and looking ahead and so you're kind of easing into the week instead of like diving right in. I like Mondays now. So we interviewed Zach, had a conversation with him, and my meetings with Zach are always on Monday mornings. And so that starts off like at least my week, right? Of meeting with my accountability partner, setting our goals for the week, discussing our challenges. So Mondays are good.
When I said during the conversation how everybody's different, you like Mondays now more that you're not in corporate life, right? So that's one way. And then I have always liked Mondays, even when I was that guy with the hair. Like I liked when I didn't care for the weekend. I couldn't wait to get back to school on Monday. I was such a nerd. So I've always liked Mondays. So that's a different kind of person. And then I wonder if Misty, to pull this back full circle, we saw little baby Misty. We saw things that are reoccurring themes in her writing, like nature, and she makes her videos. She's always out by a lake, and there's always ducks, and she's always out with nature. I wonder how much of because every moment has prepared us for this moment right now. I wonder how much of elementary school and middle school of Misty influenced who she was today. I'm sure it does. I wonder if she was a Monday lover or not, or how that worked. We'll have to ask
Misty,
her.
if you're watching, let us know in the comments. Are you a Monday lover? I would love to know. People put that in the comments. Do you like Monday? Do you not like Monday? If you like Monday, what makes you like it? Like, we would love to hear from you.
Yes, I agree. Do you think that a lot of people, they just want to go with the crowd and they're like, oh, we're supposed to hate Mondays? I'm Garfield and I'm going to eat lasagna and hate Mondays.
Yeah, like I probably a lot of people don't think about it. It's just like this is what's been ingrained. But I think a lot of people don't care for their jobs, or a lot of people don't care for what they're doing. They're not doing their like passion work. And so if you're not doing what you're called to do, there's this this inner battle of, especially if you know what you're called to do and you're not doing it and you're doing something else. And Nina kind of talks about that in our conversation, is I think there will be that wrestling until you figure out how to make time to do what God is calling you to do.
True.
Which, speaking of nature,
yes.
I love that you brought that up. Hey, Jon Meyers.
Yes.
Okay. I thought this might be true, but did you know this is actually true? And then I learned something in researching it that I did not know. So, did you know that it's true that where there's thunder, there's lightning?
So here's what I know about that.
Okay.
I have always operated under this belief that the time between the thunder and the lightning, you multiply, let's say it's 7 seconds, you multiply that by 7, and that's how many miles away the lightning is. So it's 49 miles away. If it's immediate 1 second, then it's immediate within 7 miles. That's all I know. Am I wrong?
I don't know about that, but this is what I didn't know. And I have a reason why I'm sharing why this is, hey, my
the angels are bowling.
Yeah, exactly. Is I didn't know that thunder is the sound produced by lightning. Like, I just thought they were two separate things, but it was like if one's around, the other one's around, but I didn't know that. I guess it just kind of blows my mind that thunder is produced by lightning, because a lot of times you'll hear thunder, but you won't see the lightning, right?
Yeah, that's because it's too far away to count the seconds between the two. So it's like really far away.
I guess, but this just brought a whole other, I'll tell you why. So yesterday I was out on a four-wheeler, like out on the farm, and I'm riding my four-wheeler and I see this crazy bird and I'm like, what? And I had stopped. No, I saw the crazy bird because I was taking pictures of irises, like out in nature. They just bloom, taking pictures. I see this crazy bird. I'm like, what the heck is that bird? It flies over. So I get back on the four-wheeler, drive over, and turn it off, sitting. I think I see the bird, and I got a phone call on my phone, and it was like my designer for my children's book. And I'm like, I'm going to take this call out in nature, sitting here on my four-wheeler, take the call. So I'm talking to her, and it thunders, and I'm like out in the middle, open, and I'm like, I gotta go. It's thundering. I don't want to get caught out.
Holding a metal rod over your head.
Yeah. And I'm like the tallest thing, traveling through. And then I thought, I want to talk to Jon Meyers about this, because, which is going to play into the game that I have for you of like getting out in nature. And I know you don't like your stupid walks, but like, don't you think it's good for us to be out in nature and have our stupid walks and try not to get struck by lightning while we're out there?
So yes, we got to, I'm not going to go into all the great details, but when we started out the new year at church on January, we had to do something. We had to pick something to add to our life to connect with God. And then for January, and then February was something about interpersonal relationships, and then March was something about finances. You had to add one thing to your routine. And so mine was, I take 15 minutes a day and usually sit out on my porch, even when it's freezing cold, and just listen and watch a bunny go by or whatever, right? And then it's to increase the awareness of God. And because he made that bunny, or he made that grass over there, or those flowers over there. And Emily asked when this happened, Emily's like, well, why don't you just add that into your stupid walk? And I'm like, no, because that's not, I'm already doing that. Right. So it had to be something that we add to make us aware of God. I could do it both. Mm-hmm. I could make it where I do it both, but that's my thing. Here's what I didn't know. I got to do it forever. I thought we were just adding it for January. Then we get to February. Here's the new thing you get to add. And then by the end of the year, there'll be 12 things and you will have changed your life by 12 degrees, right? But yeah, it's forever. I got to be outside 15 minutes a day forever.
It's not a bad thing. You're going to learn maybe today in your game how good that is for you, Jon Meyers.
Yeah, and then thank you for bringing up birds, because this is the -- podcast for people that watch birds. Did you know that?
Oh, it is
the #1 writing podcast for bird lovers. Emily's whole family are birders.
Oh, my dad manages this property. It's private property, and it's like close to, I think, 500 acres. And I mean, there's over a year, 100 different types of birds that are on the property. Like lots of birds that you wouldn't see anywhere else, but you can see over here on this nature preserve. And so that's why yesterday I was like, what the heck? I've never seen that bird. I've been looking through bird books and Google it or whatever. How am I supposed to find what this bird is?
Emily can tell you there's an app.
Well, I have that, Merlin.
I think that's what it is, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't get it out fast enough to.
Then you take a picture of it and you send it to Emily, and she tells you what the bird is.
It was too far. Did not hear me? I was taking pictures of Iris. This crazy bird flies up. By the time I do this, the bird flies away. I get on the 4-wheeler. I drive over. I'm trying to find the bird.
The bird's like, why is this lady chasing me on an ATV?
I know. And then, I can see what I think is the right bird, but it's like so far in the tree. I took a couple of pictures, but everything's like black. You can't see the bird. So I went to great lengths and then my dad got 2 bird books out for me. And I really tried before I used online tools.
Well, you made up for the lack of birds for the last 2 episodes. That's for sure. Are you in Michigan now?
No, I'm in Indiana.
Oh, okay.
I'm in
are you going to Jenison, Michigan?
No.
Do you know where Jenison, Michigan is?
Oh,
because you said you were going to Grand Rapids, and it's by Jenison, and I have a friend that lives in Jenison, and it's the #2 city in America of the most lovely place to live. And really? This year it got voted #2, and there's nothing there, man. But
maybe that's why it's #2. It's like
maybe. I mean, I've been there. It's fine. It's nice.
And nice.
But all right.
Switching gears. What the bee? What the
bee?
What book did you read this week, Jon Meyers?
You already know, because I spilled the bean. Well, everyone watching this 3-hour episode already knows, because I spilled the beans of what it was. Talk about yours while I pull mine back up.
Okay. Well, I read I'm still reading it. It's called Pathfinders, and it's by J.L. Collins, and it's on financial independence. He was considered the godfather of financial independence, and he has a popular book, like best-selling book, called The Simple Path to Wealth. Actually, I went to get that book, and it's being republished, re-updated, and it's going to come out, I don't know, end of this month, May of 2025. But they had a book called Pathfinders, and it's like people who have taken his advice from The Simple Path to Wealth, and it was their stories. And I just love that. Like, as a writer, he wrote a book. So it'd be like somebody reading one of our books, right? Anyway, the Giving Challenge or the Gratitude Challenge. They went and did and said, what the book challenged them to do. And then they came back with a story. And so Pathfinders was like all these individual stories. And what I loved about it is some of them you actually knew who the people were and they had their websites and maybe they started a blog or started something on financial independence. Some of it was like maybe their nickname. And I don't know. I just thought as an author, it was really cool of taking all these people who your book impacted and then their stories now are going to impact somebody else or they've created resources that can help other people. So I don't know. I really liked it.
Well, goosebump moment, God moment, like you like to say. Isn't that what our anthology is going to be? It's going to be people that we've connected with through Write Anyway, telling their story, if everyone writes a chapter of why they either related to a specific chapter of the first two books or a new area where they went through this and decided to write anyway. So that's kind of along those same lines.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Proof of concept for Write Anyway 3. Write Anyway 2 doesn't even exist yet.
I love it. What did you read this week? Well, I already know. Stand Up Guy by Nina Kaye.
Yeah, I'm on chapter 2, as I already said. And I told her, and that was true, that of all the books in Barnes & Noble, I had it narrowed down to 2. I had it in my hand, and I only bought one, and the other one, here's the one I did buy, Harold by Stephen Wright, and it also involves a bird. Look, there's a bird on the cover, and it's funny, but it's also very sweet. What I didn't say, because I didn't think of it while I was talking about it, there was more than one in the new releases of like romances that involved the stand-up comedian. and I want to say there were 3. So not only did she and Stephen Wright beat all of the other books, she beat 2 other books similar in her genre. How funny is that, or how interesting is that on that new release section that there were 3 romances about stand-up comedians?
It must be what maybe the industry was publishing at the time or what was hot. Speaking of,
well, this stand-up comedian's hot according to page 7. I'll tell you that.
Speaking of stand-up comedians, I might be a little obsessed with Nate Bargatze.
He's from Nashville.
I know that.
Yeah, Nate
I
Bargatze.
know that. Does he live in Nashville?
Yeah, he lives there.
In New York now.
No, he lives in Nashville, and go ahead and say what you wanted to say, and then I'll tell you what I know.
I'm just obsessed with him. I'm really, really limiting. I mean, I'm hardly on social media anymore, but when I am on Instagram, I'm watching the same Nate Bargatze. Is that how you even say his last name?
Yeah, you got it.
I'm watching the same videos, and the one that he talks about of a book just cracks me up. And
so he had a book,
and I love him. And his book came out. I want to read it.
That's what I say. His book came out last week, so you're talking about him at a good time. I think it's Big Dumb Eyes. I think it's called Big Dumb Eyes. Yes. So last year he sold more tickets than the next 3 people: Seinfeld, Bill Burr, and the guy with the Sebastian added together.
It doesn't surprise me. It's why I love him. One, he says what everybody's thinking, but doesn't want to admit that their family's dysfunctional like that. You know what I mean? It appears he has a good marriage, he has a good little family, but his wife still drives him nuts. He still does stuff. It's yeah, I'm the dad, and I don't know that. Call my wife on that. And I think it's the stuff that everybody's oh yeah, that's our family. Nobody's saying it, and people can relate to him. I love him. I'm a fan.
The other story that I know about him, and this makes me love him even more. So somewhere, and I can't remember if it was Madison Square Garden or it might have been the Titans Stadium in Nashville, but it was some big stadium like that. Well, he set the record, if it sits 69,000 people or whatever it was. I'm sure you can Google and find out where it is, you investigator, you. he sold every seat, right? He removed a seat so no one can break his record. He unbolted a seat in the stadium and took it with him so no one can ever break his record.
Brilliant. Unless they add two. If I was the next comedian coming in or whoever, I'd add 2 seats in that place.
You'd bring 2 lawn chairs.
Yeah, give me a folding chair, folks. I'm competitive in that way.
Cool.
Okay. What's your book? Oh, yeah, you just talked about it, duh.
Yeah. That's how we got to stand-up comedians.
Sorry. Okay, very good. It's time for the game. Your favorite part when I come up with a game. This is like a game. It really goes into like our nature conversation. So I love that we had that about Misty and her poems. And I didn't even know we were going to talk about that. Also the thunder and lightning. Okay, so this is perfect. This is the final act. Nature's trivia.
Trivia? Can I leave?
No, you're not allowed to.
What's my prize?
Oh, what is your prize?
I'm not playing. Bad enough I got to play trivia.
Oh my God, I'm so unprepared.
Nah, and I'm certainly not going to do it without a prize.
A little flower. It's my mother's.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day. Okay, so this is multiple choice. I'm at least giving you multiple choice, okay? After how many minutes in nature can you begin to experience measurable health benefits, according to a 2019 study? 5 minutes, 20 minutes, 2 hours, or 60 minutes?
5 minutes.
20 minutes. So you're going to have to up your sitting on your back porch to 20 minutes.
No, it's to connect with God. I just happen to be, that was the thing that he put in my brain of what I should do to connect with him.
But it can lower your stress and hormone levels if you
I
do
don't
it for
have
5
it.
more minutes.
I have zero stress.
Good for you, Jon Meyers. Okay.
Never go anywhere you don't want to go with anybody you don't want to go with to do something you don't want to do.
That's a good rule in life, isn't it? Okay, number 2. Which of the following practices can help you quiet the brain's default mode network, leading to less overthinking and greater clarity? Doom scrolling on social media, prayer, multitasking, or watching TV?
Okay, well, first of all, I misunderstood the question because I thought it was saying which one do you need to get rid of, and it's saying which one do you need to add.
Yeah, quiet your brain.
Well, why would you think you would add doom scrolling?
Because that's what people do.
Yeah, I don't do that. I don't overthink things. There's 2 kinds of people. There's overthinkers and then there's impulsive, like impulsive decision makers. I am the impulsive decision maker, but I'm always right. So,
well, you apparently not, because you missed the last question. So, what do you think? Doom scrolling, prayer. Yes, prayer. Prayer reduces your activity in your brain, leading to improved mental focus and reduced anxiety, right? Because you're connecting with our Heavenly Father. So, like being in the forest is known to significantly lower bone density, A, blood pressure and cortisol levels, B, C, vision sharpness, or D, heart rate variability only.
Did you make up these, or they come from a real test?
They come from like a real test that I don't make up.
The things don't go to get, like being in a forest, and then one of the things is bad, and then there's I know, but the answers are one's bad, one's good, and then 2 are in the middle. Like, why would why would this test say being in the forest is bad? Being in the forest causes you to doom scroll. All right. I say the last one.
You got it wrong. It's blood pressure and cortisol levels. Reduces your blood pressure and it helps you to relax. So if you are stressed, get into nature without your phone.
I don't even know where my phone is.
This is going to be your last question.
Yes.
What is one scientifically backed benefit of spending time in nature?
Oh.
Increased desire to check social media.
See, there's no way that's a benefit. Whoever made this quiz that I'm doing so poorly on, they're putting in the opposite of what the point of the quiz
Right.
is.
It's making it easy so you get it right. It's not supposed to be
Or
stressful.
it's not working
Decreased
too well on
vision,
me.
reduce memory retention, or for writers, improved creative problem solving.
I'm going to say the last one.
Yes, being in nature.
Oh my gosh.
It's good for your creativity without your electronic device.
So wait, what did I win? Nothing. I got one right.
I think so.
I win a petal off of the flower.
Yeah.
I get to destroy nature and win a petal off of the flower. So
Oh, you got two right. You got prayer. You got
oh yeah.
You got two right. See?
I got two right. I get 2 petals. Before we go and say the thing,
Yeah.
I saw my book cover, man. And I'm not ready to do the reveal yet. We'll do a separate reveal of it, but I saw it and I am ready to say who did it and send you to her social media and to her website. So the person who made my cover, her name is Signa. She goes by one name like Cher or Kesha.
I love it.
She goes by one name. She's in
Netherlands.
the Netherlands.
I
How
pay
do
attention
you
to
know?
Jon Meyers.
There's only one Signa in the world, and you know that she lives in the Netherlands. And my book has we're not going to announce the whole title yet, has the word pantomime, as in a pantomime horse, in the title. And Fiona Leach, friend of Nina Kaye, she has a book coming out on Christmas with the word pantomime in the title.
Wow.
Not competing, because hers is a cozy mystery. It's the year of pantomime books, man.
Oh, just like you were kind of talking about with Nina Kaye's book of like the stand-up
Yeah.
comedy. Like,
Yeah, there's gonna be 2 books with the word pantomime in the title. But so her whole her on Instagram, she is Signa of horses. All of her artwork is horse related. So of course it's the right person to do my cover involving pantomime horses. And get this, she's like, I'm working on a portfolio of different pantomime horses through the from the 1800s and she was already working on
wow.
the
What are the
research
chances?
and so she just dropped out of the sky and like, I can do this. She's a Viking. So there's that. I'm trying to book her on here, figure out how to do that. She can't do Thursday nights because she teaches sword fighting. Oh my goodness. Didn't see that coming, did you? And and she lives alone in the frozen tundra with a horse.
Okay.
It's just her and the horse out in the
Tundra of the Netherlands.
yeah, but she's she's the perfect artist to do my cover.
Only God.
How amazing is that? To find someone from that far away where the sun never goes down.
I love it.
Would you have a horse come into your house?
No, I have a pretty big dog right now.
Your dog's gonna be as big as the horse. All right.
We couldn't have done it without
couldn't have done it without you.